Hello, and welcome back to Mindfulness, Meditation, and Manifesting. I am Jenna Allen, and this course is a series of sessions, about 30 to 60 minutes, and they're intended for you to create and develop your own mindfulness practice in your life so that you can experience the closeness with yourself that happens through this. That is the only type of closeness that can bring transformation and manifestation of your desires, because it taps down into the tiniest seed of who you are and brings that to blossom. And it's pretty amazing. I have found mindfulness to be the key piece in getting healthy, in manifesting my true desires, in creating close, healthy relationships with people who are supportive, uplifting, and inspiring. And that's something that has changed as well as I've done my mindfulness practice and gotten closer and closer to myself and who I really am. I actually manifest more relationships and friendships that are more supportive and loving and inspiring and all of that. And that's just one of the side effects that comes with developing a mindfulness practice and getting really and truly embodied deeply into yourself, is that you become more yourself and the world reflects that that knowingness back to you, and you manifest relationships and work situations and all kinds of things that are better aligned with your true self, because our true self is usually hiding pretty deeply down in there, and that's what mindfulness does, is help us to dig through and find it. But we're not actively digging, and we're not really doing anything. It's an undoing. It's just a beingness and being with who we really are, and those layers just start to pull away, and we can really get in touch with who we truly are underneath. So this is a lecture style program. These classes are an abbreviated version of what you would learn in mindfulness-based stress relief. The one of the first mindfulness kind of classes that has been brought to the US and has been studied scientifically a lot for the last 30 something years. And I've taken that and broken it down into bite-sized sessions. And these are about you listening, taking things in, taking some notes on the worksheets that I've given you. Write your questions down, and I can cover them through email or when we meet again, so that we can address all the things that come up for you in your mindfulness journey. The first session is going to be all about what mindfulness is and just why it's awesome, and it's going to emphasize the value of what a regular mindfulness practice does for your life. In 1989, National Basketball Association coach Phil Jackson introduced mindfulness to the Chicago Bulls. And despite the suspicion that the players had, including superstar Michael Jordan, Jackson insisted on using mindfulness to help with team building, to buffer against tensions within the team, and ultimately unite the team members. And the Chicago Bulls went on to win 6 championships. And later, this is really interesting, later the Los Angeles Lakers won 5 championships under Jackson's methods as well. And since then, mindfulness in teams has gone far beyond the sports domain. Organizations as varied as Google, Aetna, LinkedIn, and Ford have all used mindfulness practices to achieve more productive teams. So that's just one little example of how mindfulness can can absolutely transform things, whether it's you personally, a family system, a work system, a team system, whatever it is. Mindfulness has an absolute magic to it, and it's pretty amazing, and it's made a huge difference in my life, and so it's why I like to teach it, and it's also why I require a mindfulness practice of all of my clients, and support them in building that as part of our work together. And there aren't any clients that I have who aren't doing the same mindfulness journey. So you can think of it like, your own support team in the wings. We're all kind of doing this together and in this journey together. Even for me, I've been doing mindfulness for about 6 or more years at the time of this recording in 2021. And I still struggle to stay on my practice. For instance, I just moved house, and during that time just fell off of my practice, and I had to get back on and do some things, some pretty extreme things, like taking a whole home retreat day for myself to really get back onto my practice and back in touch with that and bring it back into my life. So, even the monks at, and I'll probably say this a few times, but even the monks at the local temple talk about how they struggle with their own mindfulness practice every day and maintaining that. So just know that we are here, I'm here, everyone who's practicing mindfulness is here in the same journey as you are, and applying it to their lives and learning to keep this practice alive in their lives. So right away, we're going to jump into a mindfulness moment, just a brief moment of silence, of guided meditation, and just getting settled in. It's a grounding meditation, just a short guided exercise to get us out of our heads and into the body. And so that's what mindfulness is all about, having your mind full of what's right here, right now, and feeling the fullness of what's right here, right now. And being embodied is one of the key ways to doing that. So out of our heads and into the body is where we're at. So go ahead and just get settled comfortably into the body. You might relax your hands. You might put down anything if you're holding on to it, or situate the hips more comfortably and lean back a little to be comfortable maybe, or sitting up really straight and dignified, whatever feels more comfortable for you. This won't be long. It'll be just about 5 minutes. So finding a comfortable posture. And actually, it's really good to have your feet on the floor if you can, both feet on the floor, because this is a grounding exercise. We want to be grounded and close to the floor. You may be sitting on the floor as well, and that's okay. And now just allowing the eyes to close gently, if that feels okay, or just lowering your gaze. And then bringing attention to the areas of contact that your feet are having with the floor, or whatever they're in contact with. Just feeling into your feet. And noticing the solidity of the ground underneath you. Maybe you feel where your shoes or socks are in contact with your feet, or whatever your feet are having contact with at this moment. And then moving on to the thighs and the buttocks, noticing where they have contact with the chair or the floor or wherever you're seated. Just allowing the ground and the chair to hold and support your body without you needing to do anything. And it's kind of nice to just tune into the support that's always there, but we don't notice much. Being supported by that ground beneath us. And it's always there. We don't even notice that support in the background. Now moving the attention to your back, noticing, does your back come into contact with anything? Maybe a chair or a pillow behind you, maybe not. And if it does come into contact, maybe you can feel the difference between where there's contact and where there's none. Even if your back is not touching anything, maybe you feel the contact of the fabric of your shirt. Maybe you feel it in some areas on your back, and maybe you don't feel it in other areas. Feeling the difference between where there's contact and where there's none. And now moving the attention to the hands. Feeling into the hands. Maybe noticing the position of the hands. Maybe noticing what they're touching. Perhaps they're touching the chair or your thighs, or one hand's touching the other. Without changing it, just noticing. Noticing what that feels like in the hands. And you can ask yourself, how do I know I have hands without looking? You just know, right? We can feel the hands from within. And now opening the awareness, feeling your entire body sitting here in this moment, on this chair or this seated place. From head to toe, just aware of the feeling of your body in space. Aware of what is supporting your body and how that feels. How does it feel to be in a human body right here, right now? And now, for the last few moments of our short meditation, bringing the attention to the breath. Sometimes it's helpful for the first breath or two to breathe a little bit deeper so you can really feel the breath. And notice, do I feel it most at the nostrils, where the air comes in, or the back of the throat, or in the chest as it rises and falls? Or the belly maybe. Everybody's different. Where do you feel the breath the most? Just taking a few deeper breaths. And then using that place as the anchor for your attention, that's where you come back to over and over, whenever the mind wanders off. Because it will, and it's supposed to. So we're just letting the breath breathe itself. No need to make it any other way than it wants to be, letting go of deepening the breath, just letting it breathe itself. In mindfulness, we're learning to let go of the control and manipulation of the world, reaching out and trying to change it or plan it or analyze it. We're letting go of that control and manipulation. So no need to make the breath any other way than it wants to be. Just receive it without judging that it needs to be any different. Just as mindfulness teaches us to just receive the world without judging that it needs to be any different. Focusing on the breath. What does it feel like in that anchor place for the breath to enter and exit the body? And when you notice your attention is somewhere else, just gently bring it back to the breath. And when we we say gently bring it back to the breath, this is an opportunity to celebrate with kind, loving awareness. Oh, I was thinking, I need to go back to the breath. Now I have done mindfulness. Going back to the breath from thought is your moment of mindfulness. An opportunity to celebrate with kind, loving awareness. Feeling the sensations of the breath now. Feeling into these last couple of breaths, breathing in and breathing out. And then you can begin to open your eyes and become aware of everything around you, aware of your whole body sitting here and what it feels like now to be in this human body. Maybe you feel different than before we started. Maybe not. Noticing how it felt to focus in this way. We are working in mindfulness to strengthen our attention muscle. We kept bringing our attention back to the breath, right? That's a muscle that needs practice, right? And we can't just sit down and go into silence. We have to have these skills to work on meditation so that we can meditate. Otherwise, we'll just be like, oh my God, I can't do this mind clearing thing. Because it's not about mind clearing. At least in mindfulness meditation, it's not about that at all. It's just strengthening our attention muscle. Because when our muscle of focus is strong, we're able to access inner healing and realms of possibility that may not have been accessible before to us. And so that's on your sheet. If you're following along on the worksheet, it says mindfulness works to strengthen the attention/focus muscle. Mindfulness works to strengthen the attention/focus muscle. So something that I like about mindfulness, I'm a spiritual person, and mindfulness is not only for spiritual people, but I'll give some spiritual tidbits or guidance throughout this process, and you just take what's meant for you and leave the rest, and that's okay. Something in the Buddhist tradition they talk about is to pray without ceasing. Pray without ceasing. And that's also throughout the Bible and Christianity. It talks about that. Pray without ceasing. And it doesn't mean that I'm always in gratitude and thankful and happy. But I'm always in tune with myself and what's real and what's all right here. That's my emotions. That's my thoughts, those things that are impacting my choices that I don't even realize are in the background. And that's what this can do. That's what this process can do for us. And that's how we can strengthen ourselves. If we are praying without ceasing, then we're not caught up in idolizing something else outside of ourselves. Making a false idol out of something and saying, oh, I got to keep thinking about this thing or this person or what they said or, this or that. That's idolizing. We're spending a lot of time thinking about something rather than just being tuned in to our own spirit. And so to me, that's what pray without ceasing means. Okay, so this focus muscle that we're working on is vital to the manifestation of what we want in life. And I used to teach the law of attraction before I taught mindfulness. And one of the first principles was you must be in tune with yourself to change anything. You have to be really in tune with yourself, because like I just said on the last slide, there are so many things happening in our subconscious mind that we have no idea are going on, and they're impacting our decisions, and they're creating changes around us and in us and in our relationships and in our environments, and we had no idea that they're actually making a difference in our lives, or creating an impact on our decisions and the things that we do or don't do. So on your sheet, it says, to change my point of attraction and manifest a joy-filled life, I must be in tune with myself. I must be in tune with myself. Secondly, I must be able to accept what's happening. Oh, sorry. That's at this point in the slide, it says my hidden unconscious beliefs, motives, and stories, because those are all impacting our decisions. And that's what mindfulness is all about, teaching us how to get in touch with these things and to just know them. And it becomes a natural way of life. And we'll talk about that, how mindfulness is not just a practice, but a way of life. Okay, so we need to be able to accept what's happening in any moment, and we need to be able to work with that without any resistance, because when we have resistance to something, we're pushing against it and it's going to push back, versus if we just accept it and learn how to work with it, then that creates a whole different energy in our lives. So we have to be willing to work with what is there, rather than being in a state of resistance. And on your sheet, it says, being able to tell the difference between what Buddha termed the wholesome mind and the unwholesome mind is very important. If we are aware of these unconscious beliefs and motives and stories, then we know when things are coming from the unwholesome mind. And I can guarantee you that you're creating situations in your life that you don't like, that you feel like are not in your control, but they are really coming from the unwholesome mind. And mindfulness will help you get in touch with those things so that you can create and manifest in a different way. Okay, let's see where we're at. Okay, so in the law of attraction, I talk about that, how you must be willing to work with the contrast from your past. And so the contrast is, hey, I've manifested, or I am in something that I don't want to have. And so it contrasts to my inner desires for myself and for my life. And so we have to be willing to go into that and work with that. And so we have to be able to say, am I consciously creating, or am I unconsciously creating things in my life? We're either acting from an ego-led place or a spirit-led place. And that goes back to wholesome mind or unwholesome mind, right? Ego-led place is unwholesome mind, and the spirit-led place, the inner self-led place, right, is that wholesome mind that Buddha refers to. And so mindfulness teaches us to be so in tune with ourselves that we're able to tell the difference between the two. And this changes all of our actions, and all the unhealthy patterns that we've been stuck in, they just start to dissipate naturally, right? Dissipate naturally. And so we're in a space of conscious creation versus unconscious creation. So welcome to the program of conscious creation and getting in tune with that wholesome mind, and getting to embody the wholeness of yourself, right? And obviously here we are training to have a different relationship to all of thought. We're not working with specific content. I went in the law of attraction principles and how I used to work, or part of how I used to work, is that we would need to think more positively. But even when I worked in law of attraction, I called that the positivity trap, and I say that that's why everything you know about the law of attraction is bullshit, because you can't just think positively into something. That's not how it goes, right? And so we're not working in mindfulness with thinking more positively, or thinking more about what we want to manifest. Here we are addressing embodiment, being with whatever's present, whether that feels, quote, positive or negative, because those are just judgments anyway. So whatever is present, whether that's positive or negative, and exploring it and learning how to turn toward our stress and welcome it, and even be grateful for it, which is something that happens naturally along the way. That gratitude comes. We don't have to train it into ourselves. We don't have to positively think about all of that stuff. It just happens. We start to embody our divine power and our true will, because we suddenly, in mindfulness, we are learning how to develop the power to choose. And that's what mindfulness can bring. We can, as I, work with people in different sessions and do things, we can rewrite our thoughts and beliefs all day. But if we're missing this piece of knowing how to delve into the dark emotions and how to love all of them and accept all of you, then you're not going to be manifesting in alignment with what you want to manifest. Okay. I'm going to go spiritual on us for just a moment. And I believe that Creator, God, universe, Goddess, whatever you want to call it, gave us an awareness to feel things. Just like we can feel our hands without looking. We can feel when tension is rising within us, and we can take care of our feelings that are arising so we don't fall into old habits of reaction that get us into trouble or even perpetuate drama or remaining stuck for us. And so we want to, and that helps us be in that spirit-led place rather than that ego-led place, where that ego-led place, we're not checking in with the voice of God or my heart, or where universe speaks to us inwardly. And so mindfulness meditation is a way to use my mind and my body as the vessel to communicate with God. And I think that that's really beautiful. Mindfulness and meditation kind of have a bad rap in some Christian communities, and we just want to touch on the fact that mindfulness is not a religion. It's a modern approach to ancient teachings, and it's really useful to all walks of life, regardless of their religious background. And that's because we must be in stillness to hear God. The mind's thoughts and stories, they get in the way, and they close the door to God's message, because our human thoughts are coming from this river of pain. We will act from this place of missing the mark. And if we don't mind this, if we don't tend to this, and we don't stay in that prayer incessantly, that constantly, then we won't be able to move through these unhealthy emotions, and they'll keep impacting us. And it doesn't mean that we have to be positive all the time. Mindfulness is going to teach us to delve in and face the unhealthy emotions, and we'll learn how to talk things out a little bit better just from that process. It'll just happen naturally. The learning just happens rather than having to study or try to learn something or practice or correct our minds over and over again, or all of that, right? And so that ceaseless prayer means even with the shit and the muck and being with that, and treating the stuff that your mind labels as bad stuff, as negative, right? Viewing all of that as the divine gift, showing you exactly the next steps on your journey, as well as praying about the good stuff. And it's not, prayer is not about asking for something to happen. Please, please make it happen. That's actually in a very lack-based kind of mindset. If you're having to beg for something to be different, and so prayer of asking for something is not trusting. So we want to be in a state of prayer where we are trusting and we are in communion with God through ourselves, through our inner self, or just in communion with our inner self, period, right? And so asking for something in prayer just means we don't trust the path of God that's laying before us. And so what we really want to ask for is to find the strength to align with God's highest intentions, even if they don't align with our desires, right? And I have a course called Personal Power of Creation, and it's all about playing with our desires and shifting them in ways that do align with what the divine wants for our lives, and in a way to align with the magnanimous gifts of abundance that Spirit does want for us. And that's also in a lot of my Sacred Purpose programs, my client program that I currently run right now, and lots of other things. So that's the, this is the Personal Power of Creation class. I didn't realize this slide was still in there. Okay, this is where we do the work with the thought we do work with the thought content. Shifting some things from negative to positive, but avoiding the positivity trap and that bullshit that I was just saying. So I won't go over this whole class, but let's move on. So first of all, you should commend yourself for showing up in this way for you. And just by showing up to mindfulness, you have made a commitment to look at your stressors through a new lens in your life. And that's going to definitely have an impact on your creation potential, your potentiality, right? Your potential to create in the world will be different when you see life through a new lens, right? Tony Robbins is one of my favorite personal development speakers, and he talks about massive determined action and how massive determined action is required to create change. And showing up for something like this that's new and different, maybe out of your comfort zone, is massive determined action. No matter how little it feels to sit here and listen in on a class or start to make a 30-second or 5-minute mindfulness practice, that is massive determined action. And so that's on your worksheet. Massive determined action is required to make a difference in my life. And this means stepping out of my comfort zone. My comfort zone. Anytime that we're willing to do something that's so different and foreign to us, or even just maybe mindfulness isn't so foreign, but just to further our knowledge about ourselves, we're amply rewarded for that. You are doing something that no one else can do for you, and that is being an active participant on the path to your own growth and your own healing. Right? We are developing legitimate means for coping, for manifesting relief, for happiness, for success, right? Legitimate means. And so classes like this, therapy, methods of improvement, medical procedures for pain relief, things like that, those are legitimate means for coping, right? And so we're talking about the difference between skillful means and less skillful means. On your sheet it says, a regular mindfulness practice gives me skillful means for coping with the stressors in my life. Skillful means. So less skillful means, right? We kind of like threw a weird one in there, medical procedures for pain relief, right? But some people are turning to addictive drugs rather than managing their pain, right? Through mindfulness practice, or, having certain procedures they need to have done, or whatever that is, right? Less skillful means can also be just in general addictions like drugs, alcohol, even codependent relationships. food, TV. These are all distractions from what's really going on within and getting to know the self. And that's because the subconscious mind naturally wants to just avoid that because we don't have the skills to cope with that. We don't have the skills to look at that and feel through it and know that we can continue on. And so most of us, I'd say all of us, are walking around with unprocessed baggage in our minds that, again, is unconsciously impacting the people and things and relationships around us that we're creating and the environments that we find ourselves in, right? Here we are learning how to come into contact with our natural abilities within for relief from old stressors and patterns of sabotage, things like that, and our natural abilities for manifesting the type of life that's important to us, right? And so that's on your sheet too. It aligns me with my natural abilities for healing and transformation. All right, so we'll continue our mindfulness journey here with a few ground rules, right? It's important to commit to the practice and to be accountable. I spelled practice wrong. Sorry about that. Being accountable, it's good to have a buddy or somebody who maybe just knows you're taking the class. Maybe you take this class with them, but you email or text them or talk with them once a week, once a day, whatever it feels right for you. Saying, I did my home practice today or this week, or this is how I'm doing, or I fell off and I want to do better, right? Having an accountability partner is going to be very helpful because as simple as the steps are to developing a mindfulness practice, it is difficult to change, to create this shift and this change in your life. And accountability is really going to help you with committing to that. So for the duration of this course and for the duration of working with me, if you're my client, you are committed to your home practice. You show up and you are real about what's going on with you, whether that's in your practice, in your life, in your emotions, or whatever. And definitely straight up with me when we're working together. And we're all in this together. It takes work, but on your sheet, it says mindfulness only works if I work it. If I work it. You can't just think about these concepts. You have to actually work them, because without regular practice, mindfulness, it won't be transformational. The changes do not come through intellectual understanding. They come through the mechanisms of regular practice, right? Tony Robbins talks about the 2 millimeter shift. It's interesting. We're going from one extreme to the other with him. Massive determined action and this 2 millimeter shift. So massive determined action is showing up to the golf game, right? Showing up to the game of golf and being there. Then you make these 2 millimeter tweaks and shifts once you're there, right? And he talks about how when you're playing golf and you're about to hit the ball, you're all set up and everything, you hit it and it doesn't go where you want. You don't do an about face and hit it the entire other direction. You shift your feet 2 millimeters to the left or the right. You shift your hips or your knees. You shift something very smally, something very tiny. You make a little shift and you tweak it and you try again. And that shift can make all of the difference, right? And so making these 2 millimeter shifts is where we need to focus. You've already taken the massive determined action of showing up here. And now we'll learn how to make all of these little 2 millimeter shifts, right? All right, so the nitty-gritty of mindfulness. It is not a religion. That's on your sheet. Mindfulness is not a religion. It is a modern approach to ancient teachings that are useful to all walks of life, regardless of religious background. Secondly, seeing results takes time, right? It takes time. In the beginning, you might even feel like your stress in your life gets worse before it gets better, or your practice is hard, it gets worse, because at first it's like, oh, I'm zen, and then it might get worse before it gets better. And why is that? Universe says, oh, you're finally here in the stillness? Well, there's some things you've been needing to heal through that you chose to ignore before, right? So it can feel worse before it gets better, because now you're going to be tapping into some of the feelings and things that you had ignored before. And noticing how things impacted you that maybe you didn't even realize were impacting you before, right? You start paying attention to your inner process, and any of the issues that were in the background and not fully processed or acknowledged before, they surface, and they come to the surface because your beingness is divine, and it knows what you need to see in order to heal and move forward in your life. So trust the process. Trust that anything that comes up for you through this is just the beginning of your healing and the ability to heal through it. The only way out is through, right? I think of that going on a bear hunt, gonna catch a big one, right? Can't go around it, can't go over it. The only way out is through it, right? And a lot of times when these stressful things come up, we don't even realize it, but subconsciously the ego's like, run! And that comes from beliefs that say, I can't handle it. And that's why all this time your subconscious mind has been stuffing it down, because we haven't had the ability to look at these deeper things until now. Now that we are developing the skills for it, your spirit's like, okay, I'm ready, I'm going to bring it up. And then the ego mind's like, wait a minute, meditation is stupid, this is dumb, I'm not getting anything out of this, or just, oh, I don't need that, or whatever is going to come up. So, the next thing on your sheet says that the ego may make all types of cunning excuses for why I can't meditate, but we just need to treat our thoughts like a tantruming toddler and do it anyway, right? So your ego will have all kinds of really great excuses, and so you'll have to parent yourself like a small child. If you don't show up for yourself, really, how can you expect the universe to show up with your gifts of manifesting your desires, right? If you don't show up for you, how are other people going to show up for you, right? If I don't show up for me and give me loving, attentive care, then how can I expect God to, right? We have been given gifts at this level. This level has things that we need to heal through to get those gifts, right? And how will Spirit know that we're really ready to receive the gifts at the next level if I'm not willing to heal what I need to get there, to get to that next level, right? So stillness and meditation will begin to reveal what needs to be healed at that next level. We'll learn ways to use our mind to tell and to communicate with this spirit inside of us that wants to heal and wants to manifest an abundance of love and prosperity that we can share with others and spread the universe's abundance, right? So meditation is all about, we're not moving on yet. Meditation is all about taking that, what we were talking about, prayer, to the next level. We can't just ask, right, what we want, and we need to receive what the universe has for us. And that comes in through the heart, but only when we've trained the mind to listen properly, right? And so this process is all about step by step, little tiny bits here. It's not a fast process for anyone. It builds over time, right? And then finally on this slide, we need tribe. tribal culture is missing for us. We are naturally tribal creatures, and we need connection. So a lot of times we feel like we're failing something, but really all we needed was tribe, right? And so that accountability that we just mentioned is really, really important for this process. And so, we might even be telling ourselves all the time, well, I need more accountability to do that. I'm just undisciplined to do this. No, you just need a tribe, right? You just need a tribe to help you get through. So again, I am just reinforcing the need for not just accountability and discipline, but that connection. Because in order for us to be successful, positive, happy people, we need tribe. It's literally scientifically proven that people who don't have connections with others don't thrive. And that's seen as infants who are born and have all of the basic needs met, like food, shelter, warmth, all of that. If they're given everything that they need physically, but nobody ever smiles at them, they will die. They will literally die. This is a scientific fact. And so that just says to us that we need more than anything in life to love and to be loved, and to be the reason why people turn their love toward us. And so that's how important tribe is. It's literally survival. We need it for survival. All right, so a little bit about mindfulness itself, just defining mindfulness. John Kabat-Zinn is the pioneer of mindfulness in America. Our culture requires scientific evidence versus other cultures that just require or trust in spiritual practice. And John Kabat-Zinn was the first and absolutely most beautiful person that could have helped bring mindfulness into science and start to apply scientific principles to mindfulness and how it works and what it's doing. And then that helps us in America to actually accept it as a practice that's not only spiritual, but can be for anyone and helpful. So mindfulness is defined by John Kabat-Zinn as awareness that arises from paying attention. That's on your sheet. Awareness that arises from paying attention, but paying attention in a particular way, right? And that way is on purpose, moment by moment, and non-judgmentally, which we will break that down in a second. We'll unpack it in a minute. I'm just going to plug a little class that I do really quick. It's the best event of the year, and it's an intuitive art collage, and it's mostly to kind of read it like a tarot card. I can also give this class with zero spiritual focus. It's like a personal development kind of art therapy type of exercise. It's a window to the soul, and we do some meditation, we journal through some questions, and then we do a collage where we learn how to let the subconscious mind or our intuition pick the images and place them free of the mind's logic and the rules. And then we ask a series of questions similar that you would do like with the tarot card reading. And we say, how do these images support my intention for the new year? Where do I need to focus the most attention for my growth? What do I most need to leave behind? Things like that. And it's really, really insightful and amazing. It really is just a way to pull out the answers from within us by looking at images and things outside of us. And it helps us to learn how to use symbolism and things like that in our lives. So very informative. Everybody walks away with just their mind completely blown. It really, really is amazing. And so, yeah, that's about that. Moving on, unpacking mindfulness, right? So, non-judgmental kindness. That's a big piece. So, the quality of the attention that we're giving to something is important in mindfulness. Life is hard at times for all of us, but it's also always wonderful and miraculous, right? Sometimes it's hard, and there's always miracles in the background or the foreground for us to pay attention to and look at, right? And so it says on your sheet, a key element of mindfulness is curious, kind attention to some, many, or all. You're going to circle all. Key element of mindfulness is curious, kind attention to all of our experiences, whether they're good or bad. And so we can't, when we're doing mindfulness of sound and we hear the rumble of the garbage truck, well, the mind judges that as a bad sound versus just accepting it as the sound of the moment. So that's just one example of how we learn to cultivate this curious, kind attention to anything that's coming up, whether that's grief or loss or pain or joy or gain or elation, whatever that is, right? Second part of that definition is present, being present, right? Present, kind attention. And the mind really is hardly ever present because it's constantly rehashing the past or rehearsing the future. That's on your sheet. The mind is hardly present because it's constantly rehashing the past or rehearsing the future. And being in this state, we miss the present moment. It says on your sheet, now is the only moment that I have to be alive, learn, grow, and be there for the people I love. Most of the time, we are on autopilot. Most of the time, we are on autopilot. We're lost in our thoughts, and it often even feels like this moment that we're in right now, it's not worth paying any attention to. We'd rather plan a wonderful future ahead, plan those great times when it'll totally be worth being present. But when we get there, are we present really? Chances are that we're not, because the mind isn't trained to stay in the present. It's always looking to the past and the future, just as it should be when it's untrained. So one little example of this is like planning a big vacation or a trip. You plan this trip, and I do this all the time. I get there, I'm at the trip, and within the first few hours or that first day, I'm already planning the next one. I'm like, oh, you know what? Next year we need to do da-da-da-da. Or whatever that is, right? Mind is always on the next thing, right? We're not really enjoying what's right here in front of us. Another example is watching our kids grow up. And people always say, that they miss the past, that they miss it. But we only miss something that we really weren't present for. Weren't present for those moments. And so we miss the past. And so if we train our mind to be present, we will find that time doesn't fly by and that time bends in a different way around us. And it's pretty amazing, pretty amazing. So we're going to train our mind to stay in the present moment with non-judgmental kindness. Non-judgmental kindness. So we're wrapping up here, and every time we wrap up, we are going to do we're going to talk about some self-empowerment opportunities. It might not seem like a lot of practice happening today, but there's a lot of info here. I wanted to break this down into bite-sized pieces so it's more doable for people with busy lives. And, in the traditional mindfulness-based stress relief classes, you just have to make space right away for some 45-minute practice. And that's a big ask for some people. And so these little bites are also better too for those who are dealing with trauma history, things like that. We just kind of little by little tap into this. So your self-empowerment opportunity, we don't say homework in here. Homework and assignment have a negative connotation in the subconscious mind. So we say it's a self-empowerment opportunity. And so for this week, I ask you to receive 5 to 10 minutes of mindfulness meditation each day as a gift from yourself. And that's on your sheet as well. And remember, whatever you gift to yourself, this is on your sheet also, like the resources of time, focused attentiveness, things like that, the universe will further gift to you as well. The universe can only give you as much as you give you, right? Things will start to change. When I started my mindfulness practice, one of the biggest things that started to change for me was customer service. I started getting really great customer service more and more in my life, and even had like a phone call with Verizon where me and the guy were just cracking up. Like I was crying laughing with this guy. And I remember that being one of these pivotal moments that changed for me, because that was not the case before my mindfulness practice. I never attracted or manifested great customer service because I wasn't giving myself the time and attention and service that I needed, right? So the universe was reflecting that back to me. So if you find yourself doing 5 or 10 minutes of mindfulness practice and it doesn't feel like enough, or you feel like you want more, then do more. Or if that feels long, which it may for a lot of people starting out, if 5 or 10 minutes feels long, then remember to be compassionate with yourself. Remember the 2 millimeter shifts, right? 2 millimeter shifts every day is massive determined action. So maybe you sit for 30 seconds. Maybe you sit for 30 seconds and say, okay, you know what? 5 minutes felt like forever yesterday. Today I'm just going to sit for 30 seconds. And then see what happens. See what that feels like. I bet if you sat for 30 seconds, you'd end up sitting for 60 seconds. You might end up sitting for 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and that's okay. That's your 2 millimeter shift, right? We improve our relationship with spirit or God by improving our relationship with ourself. So that's what you're doing here, taking a moment to improve your relationship with yourself, even if it's just 30 seconds a day, right? It's going to be difficult. The ego is strong and it's powerful, and it's even a cunning manipulator at times. I think that might be on your sheet. The ego is strong and powerful and even a cunning manipulator at times. It'll say, I don't have time for this right now or today. This is hogwash. I don't need it. I'm in a good place already. It's not going to help me, whatever that is, right? And so think about it like when a toddler needs to put on his shoes. Just kind of grab them, stick that shoe on. But you are kind of gently and saying, you know what, we have to put them on, but you're still like, we're just going to do it, right? Like the toddler is kicking and screaming and whatever, but then the moment is done, right? And so we have to think of ourselves like a kicking, screaming toddler sometimes, and just grab ourselves and put ourselves on our meditation cushion or wherever, and sit with that kicking and screaming. Think about it also like this. If we want to be fit or healthy, we have to take time to prep the food, cook the meals, exercise on a regular basis. We can't just eat one healthy meal and be fit or be healthy, right? We can't just read a book about exercise and be fit. It's the same thing. We're not just going to learn from books on cooking or it's the same with meditation and manifesting what we want. We have to actually show up, take the time, do the steps, right? Inspiration. It's important to find inspiration for yourself. Anything that's helpful that you might bring to mind when you're debating whether or not to do meditation. What inspires you? What are you doing this for? Right? And so write that down. Post an inspirational message to yourself to give yourself that inspiration when mindfulness is difficult to do. Again, be accountable, share what you've committed to and what helps you be inspired. Share at least with one person once a week. How many times a week you're going to do your mindfulness practice, how long your mindfulness practice is going to be. Like, hey, this week I'm doing 30 seconds a day. Hey, this week I'm doing 10 minutes every other day. Whatever that is for you, right? And remember, we're all in this together. You're building a mindfulness practice and doing meditation and all of this. It's not always fun. Sometimes it's boring, outright unpleasant, and that is so normal. It's to be expected, but you'll get the benefits nevertheless. try to do your practice at the same time every day in the same place in the same posture, because then you're going to create this muscle memory and it'll be easier to find your practice. And then, like exercise, the results generalize to other areas of your life, and it will inspire you. After you've done this for a couple weeks and you're being consistent with it, then you'll see like, oh, this is being affected. Ooh, I want to do more of that because now I can see the effects, right? It'll inspire you, right? So fill out the self-empowerment section of your sheet. How many minutes of meditation practice are you going to do this week? Are you going to increase your meditation time if you already are? The resources I gift to myself is that next blank. We talked about that. My meditation journey will not always be easy, but hey, I'm here for you, right? And then circle, I can begin or improve my meditation practice this week by what? You can check it off, you can circle it. What things are you going to do this week? And pick one main one to really focus on, right? All right, this has been Mindfulness, Meditation, and Manifesting, and I am Jenna Allen, here helping you to embody your divine inner warrior, right? We all have an innate healer and a master, and we all are a master manifester within us. And learning to embody this aspect of ourselves, it helps bring peace and healing. It brings us new levels of success. I work with clients to help them heal and resolve the issues that keep them from living in the present moment, because we all have triggers that keep us spinning in the mind space rather than being able to feel into our intuition, respond with tact and skill and inner wisdom. And so my work is defining our sacred purpose, helping my clients define their sacred purpose and to live according to their divine assignment. Our sovereignty is our freedom to be who we are in any moment, and the mind, to be with ourselves and with our mind. Sovereignty is our self-governance, and we can only truly embody our sovereignty if our mind isn't caught in past reactions, responses, sabotaging patterns. We're not using our free will then, right? So if you're interested in kind of delving a little bit deeper, feel free to message me directly. I have 30-minute sample Soul Warrior sessions, and I'll show my contact info, and you keep meditating and be well. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.